is America. Don't catch you slipping now. Don't catch you slipping now. Look what I'm whipping now. This is America. Don't catch you slipping now. Don't catch you slipping now. Look what I'm whipping now. This is America. Don't catch you slipping now.
The court-ordered busing plans in Boston from 1974 to 1988 were a pivotal act to strengthen the right to equal education by enforcing desegregation and ensuring quality access regardless of race. Despite resistance from the white community, the busing plans not only marked a significant step towards addressing educational inequality, but also exposed the rooted racial tensions in the northern cities, demonstrating the need for more government responsibility. However, the Boston busing plan was an imperfect solution to a complicated problem. This documentary explores the response to systemic racism and segregation in the northern United States through the Boston busing crisis.
Leading up to the Boston busing crisis, Boston's education system was deeply divided along racial lines. African American communities faced widespread discrimination across the city, specifically in education. Black students were often assigned to poorly funded and overcrowded schools, while white students attended better-resourced schools with more opportunities and support. This disparity persisted despite the 1954 Supreme Court ruling in Brown v. Board of Education, which declared school segregation unconstitutional.
Ruth Batson and the late Paul Parks were the leaders in that particular effort, as well as some other persons, Tom Atkins, who was my predecessor as president of the Boston branch NAACP. They tried to negotiate with the school committee in order to do that, but the school committee at that time was not hearing it, wasn't concerned about it, and wanted to keep the schools segregated. So there were schools in which were underfunded. They didn't have adequate facilities, adequate books, etc. in the Black neighborhoods. And so as a result of that, the NAACP, Boston Branch NAACP at that time, filed a lawsuit against the school committee in the city of Boston. And that's what resulted in the decision which was rendered by Judge Garrity in 1974.
We're in the mayor's office, just off of City Hall Plaza, and the police commissioner comes in and says, "I have bad news, Mr. Mayor. We've just learned that Whitey Bulger, who was the head of organized crime in South Boston, intended to shoot and kill Black children on what Whitey called opening day." So with that, we knew that we were on the verge of a civil war, because if Whitey Bulger had shot and killed a Black child on opening day, the white community and the Black community were armed to the teeth, and this would have been the most violent confrontation and the biggest race riot in American history since the Civil War.
But that year, there was a lot of violence throughout the city. Black students were being stoned when their buses went through the white neighborhoods. A lot of kids boycotted school. They didn't go to school, dropped out of school.
But back then, Boston was a backwater. The geographic neighborhoods of Boston were physically divided the way they are divided in almost no other American city. If you were Black, you would never venture into a white neighborhood. If you were Italian, you wouldn't venture into an Irish neighborhood. It was very tribal. It was very geographically isolated. The mayor and I spent the summer attending 100 coffee clatches. These were neighborhood gatherings in people's homes and backyards, in Black and white families' homes, trying to reassure the parents that while the mayor had no control over the schools, he would oversee the safe implementation of the judge's order. And we knew from those 100 coffee clatches that the parents of both white children and Black children were scared to death. They knew that their children were going to be forced to be put on buses to enter neighborhoods that they as adults had never entered themselves. And there was extreme concern that the school committee, which had been intransigent all these many decades, would deliberately mess up.
The implementation of busing faced significant resistance. White residents in neighborhoods like South Boston and Charlestown staged protests and boycotts, while black families in Roxbury and Dorchester expressed frustration over the lack of investment in their schools. The tensions led to violent clashes, with incidents of rock throwing, riots, and even attacks on buses carrying students. The crisis deeply affected students, teachers, and families on both sides, creating an atmosphere of fear and hostility in the city.
About my friend Robert Lewis and the black families from the Maverick development who were firebombed. It was a bad, dark time in Boston history.
The thrill is gone. It's gone away for good.
I always hold my metaphor for this whole process is, unless you have the educational process is a four-legged stool. It is administrators, teachers, parents, and students. And if the legs on that stool are not even, then, as you know, if you sit on a chair with uneven legs, more probably than not, the stool is going to tip over.
The Boston busing crisis left a lasting impact on the city's education system and community dynamics. Boston public schools are more racially separated than ever before. Today, 85% of Boston public school students are students of color, compared to 57% when busing began. On the other hand, white parents fled the city's public schools and school enrollment dropped by 25%. Given these statistics, Boston's forced busing programs are viewed as a failure in closing the racial divide within city public schools. However, action was necessary. Citizens were being deprived of their rights in society. The busing plans created a pathway to hire more black teachers and brought national attention to the struggles of desegregation in the North.
So I'm not wise enough to know whether on balance it was a good thing. I just know it was necessary that the racism had to be confronted. I don't know why the judge didn't put the school committee in jail. He was going to hold me in contempt of court. Why didn't he hold the school committee in contempt of court? His remedy and his self-righteousness was reflected in the order that he imposed, but the order that he imposed inflicted violence on the kids that his order was meant to benefit. So it's a complicated story. It's maybe the story of America.
The Boston busing crisis stands as one of the most pivotal events in the fight for educational equality in American history. The event exhibited the violent cause for change, yet it also showed how rights and responsibilities are connected. At its center was the right of all students to have an equal education and the responsibility of governments to enforce laws in society and treat all of its citizens equally. The crisis showed that even when rights are established, making them a reality takes effort from both citizens and the government.
I go to the movie and I go downtown. Somebody keep telling me don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know